Thank you very much, ECTC, for giving me this opportunity to introduce my friend. I would not say anything else, but friend. And I came to know him when I was on a visit to Istanbul, 3 years back probably. And since then, we are good friends. We don't have the teacher-student relationship, though he always respects me like a teacher. But he's more, to me, like a friend. Instead of reading his formal introduction, I will just say a few words formally and then just like about him. Yes, he did study in Shanghai, did his BA honors and MPhil from Shanghai. And then at that time, what he has done, rather, he had not completed his MPhil when we met. And then he told me when we were having the trip in Istanbul, he was in a way my host and tour guide. And I tell you this thing, he is an excellent tour guide. I always tell Bush that I always will remember him, that how good he was in taking me around in Istanbul, Bursa, and all these places. And he knew where to eat, where to go. And what other lighter thing, he's a very good cook as well. So I don't know whether he has cooked for his wife or not, but he should. Another important thing that when we were discussing academic things, that's what he came up with this topic. That he wants to take admission 1 in Hong Kong, and then he wants to do some research on what topic, and he gave this idea. And I agreed with him instantly. There were 2 reasons for that. One, he had already studied in China. He knew very well the Mandarin. And then China and Turkey has historic relations, particularly through Uyghur communities. And 2 important things which I want to point out is like the past of China and the past of Turkey. If you look at the histories of both these countries, they have at a time ruled the world, you can say. But then there came the decline. But once again, they are rising now. Not only China, but Turkey as well. So then talking about the contemporary relations of China and Turkey are very important. And I'm glad that he's pursuing very seriously, and he has already started writing the PhD dissertation. And this is good on the part of ACDC that giving him opportunity to introduce this topic to other people, what he has done and what he is expecting. And I hope this will be beneficial for both countries, China as well as Turkey. Personally for him, it will be beneficial. He has already taken benefit out of it because he has married already a Chinese girl. So I think this is enough. I give him the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Minhaj. It was my honor to be introduced by you. I mean it. And thank you for ACDC and particularly Mr. Mujdat for giving me this opportunity. Well, let's start then. Now I will start, as some of you might remember this scene from my defense of my proposal. I know 2 or 3 of you were there, and I started with the same question because this is very striking for me. And I will start with the same question as well. Which country or which country's public do you think has the least favorable view against China? Quick guesses?
Japan.
Japan.
Turkey.
Turkey, right?
Just a guess.
Just a guess, because you know Turks hate everyone, right? Is that because America?
Vietnam.
Yeah. Vietnam, yeah. Well,
Yes.
Japan, yes, obviously is has one of the least favorable view against China. But interestingly, if you go to this research, now this is the 2014 And let's go down, down, down, down. And here you go. You have Japan, Vietnam due to last year's South China Sea tensions, and then Turkey. 2013, Japan and then Turkey. 12, Japan then Turkey. 11, Turkey. 10, Turkey. At this point, some of you may guess why Turkey has unfavorable view towards China
NATO.
from 2010.
Is it because Turkish is NATO? NATO.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Turkey became a NATO member in 50s, not in 2010.
Weaker.
The Xinjiang Uyghur riots in Xinjiang in 2009, right? So that might be the reason. That's what we think when we see. But in 2009, again, Turkey is the last. Before the riots, Turkey still is at the bottom. So it's not because of the riots. Well, anyway, let's go on. So Turkey has a very bad image of China. And on the other hand, this is a very obvious question, which you had already answered in my abstract. Which country is this? Turkey, right? Now, on the one hand, Turkey is Turkish public having a very bad image of China, but on the other hand, although it's a NATO country, it's still showing an interest for buying Chinese weapons, which is very odd and striking. So the question is, what is going on, right? Why Turkey is having bad perception? On the other hand, how come it's possible that Turkey having interest on Chinese missiles? Now the answer will be, I hope, this talk. Now, my outline will be as, I'll give you a brief, not brief actually, I will give an introduction of the history of the relations, before and after the diplomatic relations, and then I will talk about the contemporary relations, which the relations nature has changed dramatically, and then at the end I will try to come up with the conclusion, and then I will try to elaborate the strategic partnership. As I said, there are two sections in history part. Let's start from the old days, very old days. Now, according to Turkish people, their ancestors, not only for Turkish people, for many scholars, their ancestors are coming from Central Asia. This is very common for history studies. But from the first known Turkish state was Göktürk or Köktürk, and in Chinese Tujue, from 7th century. However, there are Turkish scholars saying that the ancestors of Tujue is Hun, or Great Hun Empire. So they even associate Turkish roots with the Hun Empire. So there are also people saying we are coming from Huns. And that makes Turks to imagine that Chinese built Great Wall because of us, because the Great Wall built it against Xiongnu or Hun Empire. So the perception in Turkish mind is the Great Wall has done because of us. And the relations started as early as, at least as far as we know, 7th century. Then Turks moved towards Anatolia. The relations kept going on through the Silk Road. Now there's this geographical distance, so there were no very close relationship, as you can imagine, without today's transportation. During the Ottoman Empire, the relations' main nature was through the Silk Road. However, at the end of the Ottoman Empire, there were interests from Chinese intellectuals and politicians to the Ottomans, like, for example, Kang Youwei. And they were interested in Ottoman modernization, or Turkish modernization rather, or the failed Turkish Ottoman modernization. In order not to fail, Kang Youwei, for example, was taking Ottoman as an example in order not to fail. At the end, it failed as well. So at the end of the 20th century, there was an interest from Chinese Empire to the Ottomans. But that was not the only connection when we were starting to the 20th century. While we were starting to the 20th century, Ottoman Sultan Abdülhamid sent a delegation to talk to the Muslim people, Muslim minorities in China, to let them just stop the mass killings of Westerners, which we know as Boxer Revolution. So there was a delegation coming to China from Ottomans, particularly for talking to the Chinese Muslims, including Huis and Uyghurs. Starting from this delegation's meetings, in 1908, this Hamidiye University, it's an Ottoman initiative, founded in Beijing, and it's founded in the backyard of the New Jie Mosque. You must know this mosque if you have visited Beijing. It's a very famous Muslim mosque. So the university founded in the backyards of the New Jie Mosque. This somehow related Chinese Muslims to Ottoman, because as you know, back then we had this Caliph system in Islamic world. So once you are a Muslim, like today's Vatican, so there was a political connection between Chinese Muslims and Ottoman, perhaps with this foundation. And then the First World War happened, and Turkey fought its own independence war, and China entered into a last 50 chaotic years, again with civil wars, warlord periods, and Japanese war, and then civil war again. But during this time, in 1934, Turkey had relations with Republic of China. And at first, Chinese modernizers were keen on to watch Turkish revolution. So the perceptions of both communists and nationalists was not bad initially. But the perception changed dramatically after that. For example, Mao Zedong himself was watching Turkish revolution, and he had positive attitudes towards Turkish revolution, and Mustafa Kemal. Later on, his view dramatically changed within the developments. Which development? With the Korean War. Now, in the Korean War, Turkey and China fought against each other. Literally, they fought against each other. So they killed each other. The soldiers, Chinese soldiers killed Turkish soldiers killed Chinese soldiers. But if you ask, nobody would know in Turkey or in China that they fought against each other, because Chinese, if you ask Chinese, they fought against South Korea and imperial forces. And if you ask Turks, they fought against North Korea, the communists. But this war gave a very deep perception of each other later on, starting from Korean War, and of course as a result of Cold War. Turkey started to have the perception of communist China, or Red China. And on the other hand, China, as I mentioned earlier, Mao Zedong's view changed dramatically against Turkey, and then he came calling Turkey as a runner dog of the imperialist world, since it was Turkey allied with the West and fought the war with China or the communist bloc. And then our next issue is not particularly at the time, but in general 20th century, the Uyghur issue. The first emirate was Kashgar Emirate, founded in Xinjiang, today's Xinjiang. It was not actually an Uyghur emirate or khanate. The head, Yaqub Bey, was a Kyrgyz. But it was somehow the first, it's known as the first Uyghur emirate. Now, why I put it here, not because it's the first Uyghur khanate or emirate, but it was linked with Ottomans with the caliphate system. So literally, Kashgar Emirate within the borders of China linked with the Ottomans politically. But it didn't last long, and then in 1877, Chinese forces took Kashgar Emirate. Then the first Uyghur Republic founded in 1933 for just 1 year, with this gentleman being very active in it. He was the General Secretary of the First Republic, General Secretary of the National Assembly of the First Republic, İsa Yusuf Altekin, which fled to Turkey after Communist Revolution. The Second Republic was I'm sorry, it should be 1944, it's not 34, the Second Republic. It's 44. So there was a Second Republic, which was a kind of Soviet puppet republic. But these republics has, again, the similar connection with the Ottoman Turkish world. And İsa Yusuf Altekin, with fleeing to Turkey after 50s, with Mehmet Emin Buğra, which was an intellectual behind the Eastern Republic, they were the leading figures of Uyghur nationalism. So them coming to Turkey made Turkey as the center of Uyghur nationalism, and this was not very surprising given the fact that Uyghurs being a Turkic group, and Turkish people also coming from this Turk. So there's this connection with Uyghur people and Turkish people. However, Mehmet Emin Buğra died in 65. Then İsa Yusuf Altekin became the leading figure of Uyghur nationals or Uyghur people out of China. I will come back to this topic in next PPTs, because there has been changes in 90s. Not only İsa Yusuf Altekin has passed away, but also Turkish Uyghur policy has changed a lot. But this remained a very important issue between Turkey and China. I will mention these again in the coming PPTs, but so far I could say Korean War, the image of Korean War, which is communist China perception and the imperialist, capitalist Turkey perception, and also Uyghur issue, are the most important issues valid today as well. Now then, in 1971, with the efforts of United States, ping-pong diplomacy, Turkey took the message very quickly, and right after a few months, Turkey established diplomatic relations with China. So Turkey is the 8th NATO country which established relations with China. And it established the relations even before Nixon's visit, I could say. But obviously it's not because Turks loved China or anything else. It was just they got the message from US. We should recognize China, I mean PRC. So, as I said, the issues like communist image, also Uyghur issue, they prevented two countries to have further relations. Even though they established the relations, they didn't have much relations, actual relations. So their relations stayed as such for a long time, until 90s. In 90s, what happened? Here, first of all, Soviet Union dissolved, and this gave a wave in Turkey, which is a kind of pan-Turkish wave. Turkey, on the one hand, there was a bad news. The Cold War ended because Turkey had a very important role in the Cold War. Turkey had its identity with the West, had its belonging because it has a very important strategic position, and within the Cold War, Turkey felt its importance very well. But the USRC's end gave Turkey the bad news. The Cold War ended, so you're not important anymore. But on the other hand, it gave another good news to Turkey, for Turkish government or people, which there was newly founded 5 Turkic republics, which were looking for Turkish assistance or Turkish leading, in fact, which wasn't true. So at first, Turkish people thought they could lead the Central Asia, mostly Turkic republics, and then they can find their new identity within Central Asian republics. However, perhaps in a decade or so, Turkey understood that it wasn't really that easy to become the big brother of Central Asian republics, and Turkey didn't have much to offer actually. And also, as you know, the Great Game, Russia, United States, and even China were being very active in Central Asia, which was leaving a little space for Turkey. With these realizations, and also on the other hand, China was growing tremendously, very fastly. With these realizations, Turkey started to understand that I need to be more pragmatic, and I need to start real relations with China. I founded the diplomatic relations already, but now it's time to found or establish the real relations. So in 1999, the biggest obstacle between the two countries were, as I mentioned, Uyghur issue. So in the past, especially after the USRC's end, Turks supported Uyghur nationalism and East Turkestan movement very passionately. Even the government officials attended their organizations, their activities. However, in 1999, the government stance on Uyghur issue has changed. There was a secret cycling sent to the ministers, which was banning ministers to join Uyghur activities, their associations' activities. And Turkish police even arrested 8 or 9 Uyghur activists after a protest, I guess. I'm not sure about the nature of the event, but at the end, Turkish police arrested a few Uyghur people, which was the first in maybe 3 or 4 decades. So these were a message. This was a message that Turkey has changed its stance towards Uyghur issue and was looking after. Turkey was looking Turkey was looking to China that if they can have a real relationship, and Turkey was ready to change its stance towards Uyghur issue. And right after this happened in 1999, in 2000, Turkey and China signed a agreement on security cooperation agreement, if I'm not wrong. So this was mainly a protocol or agreement against terrorism and separatism. They declared that they will mutually respect their own territorial integrity and they will not allow any terrorist or separatist movement within their countries about the other country, which meant Turkey will not allow Uyghurs to to advertise their nationalism and their separatism within the borders of Turkey, and China will not allow as such things happening about the Kurdish issue, which was not the. So it was mainly about the Uyghur issue, and indeed the policy change. Turkey started to be more careful about this. So the relations changed dramatically, starting from there. From 2000 until 13 or 14, the trade volume increased 25 times, as you can see, from $1 billion to $25 billion. And according to the agreement between China and Turkey, they are willing to increase the volume to 50 billion in 2015, actually this year. I don't think that it will be 50 billion, but it might be over 30. And in 2025, they are planning to reach 100 billion US dollars. Now, when we talk about foreign direct investments from Turkey to China, it's totally 25.6 million out of Turkish foreign direct, 10 billion Turkish foreign direct investment. So it stands only 0.25% of Turkish foreign direct investment. And you can see the numbers for Chinese foreign Chinese investment. So they are very small numbers, as you can see. But on the other hand, as you might heard of it, the new Silk Road discourse these days very popular. Turkey and China being the two terminals of the Silk Road, the traditional Silk Road, they are also in the two sides of the Neo Silk Road. One is Asian Highway Agreement, which was signed by in the United Nations meeting in Shanghai in 2004, which was promising a highway from Tokyo to Europe through Istanbul. And on the other hand, there is this Maritime Silk Road announced by Xi Jinping administration. There are railway links, there are energy links. As you know, all of these Middle East, Central Asia, Turkey and China. China is the biggest consumer now, and Turkey is kind of in the middle of these transition ways. So the new Silk Roads are kind of a opportunity area for the two countries to further increase their relations. And Turkey has just applied for being a founding member of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. And now, I don't know why I put this here, with the agreement. The two countries has announced just, I think last week, the Turkish Foreign Minister announced last week that Turkey is going to abandon visas for Chinese citizens. Turkey already made it easier for Chinese passports. I mean, in the past, Turkey was looking for OECD visa or something like that. But now there is no necessity of having an OECD visa to have Turkish visa for Chinese passports. This development happened, I think, this year. And next year, they are going to abandon visas. I think this is one of the craziest developments between Turkey and China. It has a lot of implications, economically, culturally, many aspects. And this is one way, as you may realize, there's a great trade deficit between Turkey and China. Almost the 10% of the volume is Turkish exports to China. So this is maybe the one way to solve the problem of trade deficit. This was actually advised from one of the ministers in 2007 and 8 to apply easier visas in order to solve the problem of trade deficit. Strategic aspect, the Uyghur problem between Turkey and China became an area of cooperation. In 2010, when Jiabao visited Turkey, and Turkey and China signed a strategic partnership cooperation, which I took the title from. So according to that agreement, Turkey and China agreed to open a trade zone in Urumqi, and Turkey and a Chinese airline started to have flights from Urumqi, Istanbul. I think at first it was Hainan Airlines, and then it became Southern Airlines. Am I right? Somehow it was, in 2011, it was Hainan Airlines, but then, I don't know, they stopped their flights in 2012, but we still have flights operated by Southern Airlines. 2011 and 12, Mr. Erdogan, Turkish president now, prime minister back then, joked about Shanghai Cooperation Organization a few times. He said Turkey is willing to abandon new process if Russia and China lets Turkey into Shanghai Cooperation Organization. At the time, this was a very striking declaration. Some took it serious, some didn't, but eventually Turkey became a dialogue partner of Shanghai Cooperation Organization in 2012. And Turkey is the first NATO country in Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Why I say Turkey is the first NATO country in Shanghai Cooperation Organization is because Shanghai SCO is kind of seen by some scholars as a counterbalance of NATO, because it's not an economic organization. It's a military. It's an economic organization, but it's also a military and security-based organization. So, of course, in today's world, we are not expecting another Cold War or containment from one side to the other side, but SCO has the potential, at least on the paper, of NATO. So one of the NATO countries joining, at least in the name of dialogue partner, joining to SCO is something. Turkey, again in 2012, sent its observation satellite, Göktürk. This is the name of the first known Turkish state. So there's a satellite called Göktürk-2. It was sent to space by a Chinese space station in Jiuquan. And also Turkey is interested in building nuclear power plants. The first one has just started under Russian, I think, and Japanese consortium. And for the second one, Chinese are very interested to take the construction of the nuclear power plant. So these are somehow the strategic aspects of the contemporary relations. On the military side, in 1999, Turkey first signed this protocol, military training and cooperation. But more importantly, in 2000, as I mentioned earlier, the security cooperation agreement signed by the two, which, as I said, promises to fight against the separatism or terrorism for the two countries. But the most striking developments happened in the last 5 years in this aspect. In 2010, Turkey, this is an annual military exercise held by Turkey, and in the past it was mainly NATO and Turkey's neighbors. And at that time, given the tensions, Turkey excluded Israel from the operation, and USA protested Turkey because of the Israel's exclusion, and then Turkey found the space to invite China instead. And then eventually, at first secretly, Turkey invited China, and Turkish and Chinese fighters operated together. They exercised this military exercise, aerial exercise, and it was the first of its kind, because this was the first time a NATO country and China was jointly exercising a military training. Then, same year, after Wen Jiabao's visit, Turkey and China had another military exercise, joint military exercise. This time it was a counterterrorism exercise, and this was the first time that Chinese troops were operating in a NATO country. So this was the first exercise, this was the first exercise that Chinese troops performed in a NATO country. And at the end, in 2013, Turkish Defense Ministry declared that Turkey is not interested. Actually, they first announced that Turkey decided to purchase Chinese defensive missile system, which was sanctioned by US, by the way, because its connections with Iran and North Korea for sure. If I'm not wrong, Syria as well. So because of these transactions, it was sanctioned by US, but Turkey decided to buy its defensive missile system from the company due to the cheapness and also the promise of sharing technology. Now, European or US firms were not willing to share the technology. It was almost the half price of US system. It was $3.4 billion, the Chinese one. And European was, I think, around $5 billion. But more importantly for Turkey, it was, they were willing to share the technology. And Turkey wanted to have its own independent security system. And but this sounds a bit ironic in terms of international relations, because Turkey is an old member of NATO. So as long as Turkey is a part of NATO, trying to develop an independent security system sounds a little bit ironic. Other aspects, the 14th anniversary in 2011, it was decided actually when Jiabao's visit in 2010 to celebrate 2012 as the year of China in Turkey and 2013 as the year of Turkey in China. So in the 2012 year, Turkey and China organized the Islamic Cultural Expo, and there were imam trainings, homes, Chinese imams going to Turkey, and some student exchanges has done. There were also 100 intellectuals projects done by this, with the sponsorship of this center and TÜSİAD, the Turkish Industrialists and Businessmen Association. These are the important cultural, perhaps, exchanges. And Shanghai Food and Culture Festival was done again in the Turkey year of China in 2013 by, again, TÜSİAD and Culture Ministry and ACDC. Now, and on one last note, from my personal observation, there are now more and more Turkish students and scholars interested on China, and vice versa. There are more Chinese students interested on Turkey. It was almost impossible to find a scholar from China, for example, interested on Turkey or knowledgeable about Turkey, and vice versa, before, say, 2005. But starting from 2000s, there were just a small amount of people start to go to the other country and study. nowadays we are having this new batch, a young generation that are interested in the other culture and studying the other one. So I will just put these, because I want to finish in 5 minutes. The cooperation areas are, as I mentioned, the culture and tourism, which might be, for example, with the visa agreement, in the tourism side, there might be a lot of developments. Bilateral trade, third markets, for example, European Union, China sees Turkey as a good not terminal, but a good stop, or how to call it, as jumping. I can remember the word, but it's stop that it can enter to European market, and also Middle East, Central Asia as well. In the strategic areas, as I mentioned, technology, share of technology, science, and other areas are the possible cooperation areas. And the irritants of the relations right now are the public perception. Again, as I mentioned, Turkey had seen China as communist country for years and years and years, and still the image of China in Turkey, the average image, still has something to do with communism, even though China is not a communist country at all right now. But why this perception is so deep? Because Turkish people associated communism with atheism. So, and in 70s, Turkey had suffered a lot with the clashes of communists and nationalists or conservatives against each other. So people, of course, this has something to do with the Cold War environment as well. So Turkish public had mostly hated communism, the idea of communism. That's why when you say communists, that doesn't mean anything good. I mean, I'm talking about the average Turkish. On the other hand, Turkish image in Chinese side as the runner dog of imperialist world, this faded away because the association of Turkey with the West has only maybe 50 years, or it's not 100 years. But the association of China and communism is new, but on the other hand, the Turks hating communism, the reason association is rooted in the beliefs in Islam. So Turks has 1,000 years of Islamic culture, and that's why for a Turk, the idea of associating someone with atheism doesn't fade away that quickly, just like Chinese forgot already. If you ask an average Chinese, nobody would say you, when you mention Chinese, nobody would say when you ask about Turkey or Turkish people, oh, they are the runner dogs, or they are the dogs of capitalist world, they are imperialists. Nobody would say that. But if you ask Turkish people, I'm sure a lot of people come up with the word communism. The association is about the probably traditions. And trade deficit is an important problem still. Third markets can be a problem. I said it's a cooperation area, but it can be a problem because, for example, construction companies, in Turkey, they are also very strong, and Chinese construction companies are very strong in areas like Central Asia and Middle East. So the competition may turn into an irritant or a problem, but if they cooperate, it can be also a cooperation area. Again, the Uyghur issue still stays as a problem because there is more than government policies. Turkish people, most of the Turkish people still feels that emotional connection with the Uyghur people. And within the last year, I think you may heard the news about Uyghurs escaping from China, going to Thailand, Malaysia, and from there trying to flee to Turkey. And Turkey has gave some some of these people passports and accepted some of these people, just few hundred of them. So there's still an attachment with the Uyghur people. Now my last words. The strategic partnership was defined again in 2010 agreement between Wen Jiabao and Tayyip Erdogan, the prime ministers of the time. And they agreed to work on, they signed an agreement about 8 areas, including infrastructure, construction, technology, and etc. But how strategic is this partnership? First of all, strategic partnership is not something China uses for every partnership. It's a special term for Chinese as well. Chinese is not giving everyone this. Or if I want to give some examples, for example, Russia is a strategic partner of China. Pakistan is a strategic partner of China. They're very close countries to China. But especially for Turkey, I mean, as a NATO country, it's a bit attractive, I would say. The relations coming from almost no relations in 90s to the level of strategic partnership shows a very fast acceleration. And what is the reason of this acceleration? My response is it's because of the Turkish side's late realization of rising China. So Turkey didn't have relations as it has, it should develop. That's why once Turkey realized rising China, it had to run very fast to catch up with the Chinese position in today's world. How about the nature of the relations? As you may have noticed, the nature of the relations are asymmetric, as you can imagine. China is almost debatable about the biggest economy now, at least second biggest economy, but Turkey is hardly a middle power. In what sense? In the sense of size, in the sense of economy, in the sense of hard power, soft power, whatever you say, Turkey is hardly a middle power. So there is an asymmetry between Turkey and China. Then how can Turkey and China become a strategic partner? Turkey is not a huge country to offer a lot to China. Obviously, China can offer a lot to Turkey, right? With the trades, China is the third biggest trade partner of Turkey now. But Turkey is not the third biggest trade partner of China, obviously. So there's an asymmetry. But then the question is, what is the attraction, perhaps, of Turkey to China? Because the attraction of China is obvious for Turkey, but what's the attraction of Turkey to boost the relations to the strategic level? I would say it's Turkey's special, unique, geostrategic, historical, and cultural position that attracts China or gives China to the understanding of the relations should be in a strategic level. Because of Turkey being a democratic country, or at least once used to be. Secondly, Turkey as a EU candidate country, or at least EU Customs Union member. And Turkey's, again, once leading role in Middle East. Nowadays we don't have any ambassadors in Syria, Yemen, Israel, Libya, Armenia, most of our neighbors. But once, I mean, a few years ago, I'm talking about a few years ago, Turkey had a leading role, and there were the debate of Turkish model in Middle East. So Turkish position in Middle East, Central Asia. These were, and obviously Turkey being a NATO member, these were giving China a special image of Turkey, which I would say, Turkish partnership to the China is not important because of its size, but it's important because of its symbolic meaning. For example, for the latest defense missile system announcement from 2013, it's not purchased yet. It has been delayed for 3 or 5 times already because of the US and NATO pressure. But it's already a victory for China. Even if Turkey decides to buy, say, go with the French defense missile system, it's already a victory for China. Why? Because for the first time, a NATO country showed and declared interest in buying Chinese defense missile system. That's enough for China. So this is the symbolic meaning that Turkey could perhaps offer to China. And on the other hand, of course, China is offering Turkey a little bit space of independence for foreign policy making. But comparing with Turkey's size, Turkey's position, Turkey is a strategic partner as a middle power, but not as a middle power in the sense of size, but in the sense of position. Middle as in middle of East and West, middle as in the middle of Europe and Middle East and Central Asia, in these senses, or middle of the 2 zones. So in these aspects, Turkey is offering a strategic position to China, and that's, for me, is one of the peak points of the relationship. I'm not expecting the relations going further a strategic, more than strategic level. Again, you may be fooled by the acceleration, but it's due to the, I would say, ignorance of Turkish government and people about the growth of China. I think that should be the end of my presentation. I'm sorry I was a bit over time. It took 50
I think
minutes.
now the forum is open for question answers. If somebody has questions, so please. Yes, please.
You mentioned that, if I understand correctly, that the visa would be abandoned for Chinese by Turkey. Can you give your explanation about this?
Well, I am not also very knowledgeable about this because this was an announcement of last week. It just came in a casual meeting of foreign minister with some businessmen. And then he was mentioning the achievements of foreign ministry. Then he said we are increasing the number of countries that we abandon visa requirements because this AKP government is very keen on abandoning visa requirements. And Turkey already has, if I'm not wrong, it must have such agreement with 70 countries. And he said Turkey and China is working on abandoning visas, and he said we are expecting to abandon visas by next year, saying 2016.
So when you say abandoning, that means that people can free travel in between, or it's the other way around?
Actually, this is kind of a diplomatic visa abolition agreement, which gives the two countries an opportunity to travel without visa.
Right.
You are just stamped at the airport or whichever is your entry point.
Okay.
You don't need visa then.
Okay.
Visa
Sorry,
abolition.
I was understanding the other way, so it's why I was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mehmet, you were mentioning can you bring back that slide of the Silk Route? In the beginning, that's in the beginning. Yeah. Sorry, but yeah.
Okay.
Yes. If you look at this, it's all through the mountainous region, Silk Route, right? And you mentioned maritime Silk Route.
Yes.
So how you link it?
Oh, it's not linked from here, but it's a it's a maritime road from here, going through. I think 1 year.
No, actually, I'm asking this question for one particular reason.
It's just, yeah.
I think what China is interested now is because just last week Xi Jinping visited Pakistan
Yeah.
and he signed agreements worth around $45 billion. Pakistan, here is Pakistan, right here, right? So there they have already developed a deep seaport, Gwadar. Gwadar. And now they are linking up with Xinjiang here. And this is the shortest route for China as compared to all their ports. I think that's what they are interested in. This is the maritime Silk Route. Maritime here.
Okay.
You see, from here then you have all the options to go worldwide. So when you are using, because this immediately came to my maritime silk when you were talking about the Gwadar port, and another thing is the management of the Gwadar port has been given to the Chinese already.
Oh,
Yes,
I didn't know.
they are managing the Gwadar deep sea port, and now they will be constructing the highways, the railway links, connecting the Xinjiang province with Gwadar. So the maritime silk, and then you can say from here, instead of going this way to different countries to Turkey, it will be easiest to go through sea route. Anyway, sea route generally is considered as the cheapest
Yeah.
way of sending the goods to from one country to another. So I think that is what they are interested in, the maritime silk route.
Yeah. Thank you for that one. 'Cause
Oh.
I was very knowledgeable about maritime.
And one thing more, when you are talking about the strategic partnership,
Yes.
what I can see and I can observe between Turkey and the NATO countries, since the rise of Erdogan, there is kind of tension.
Yeah, there is this debate of Turkish Eastern.
Another important thing, like when you were talking about the defense missile system from China, I think Turkey used it as bargaining chip for the reason that Turkey wanted Patriot missiles, which NATO was not, in a way, ready to give. Because since, for obvious reasons, they still have that kind of, what you say, reservations about Turkey and particularly with Israel. So they were reluctant. So Turkey used going to China for buying this system as a bargaining chip, telling them, okay, if you are not ready, we can have this option.
Yes, that's what many observers are also thinking, and for me it was also pretty close to what you said. I already thought of Turkey would not buy Chinese missile
Yes,
system.
it was bargaining
Like
chip.
last year, I was thinking that they will not buy it because US and NATO is giving a lot of pressure.
I mean, then there is another reason too, because for a long time Turkey is a candidate for the European Union and they are not giving it.
Yes, it coincided. Actually, the 2013 announcement of Turkish defense ministry came after a long waiting process of European Union and after a declining view or perception of European Union among Turkish public. So if Turkey goes back from European Union, of course many intellectuals still sees European Union as a necessity for Turkey, perhaps maybe 90% of the intellectuals. But I can't say the same thing for the Turkish public, because for years Turkey is already waiting in the doors of European Union. There are reasons why Turkey has been waiting, but there's this reality that the public is kind of frustrated. So the Erdogan government is also using this frustration to legitimize its alignment or realignment, rapprochement with the East. That's why there are a lot of accusations of axis shift if you look at the articles about Turkish foreign policy in the 5 years, especially after 2009, you will see a lot of articles written on Turkish foreign policy and axis shift. However, today's situation is, I think, more than an axis shift. I think Turkey is having different times, historic times, and this is also affecting the foreign policy as well.